The Eagle River market in Anchorage, Alaska is one of those communities where everybody wants to move here seemingly, and for that reason it continues to be an area where the real estate market is something we need to really pay attention to. So we're going to be jumping into the residential market update today, looking at the single family, the condos, and the multifamily market, just to give you an idea for what's going on in this small but very mighty market. Before we do that, though, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska. My mission, as always, is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And before we get started, make sure you like this channel, subscribe. We're getting close to about 10,000 subscribers. That would mean the world if you'd go ahead and subscribe and make it bring that goal just a little bit closer for us. Now, let's go ahead and do today's market update, looking first at the single-family properties. Now, the first thing that we see is that this time last year, there were 32 properties available, and this year there are 52. So we're seeing a slight increase for the number of properties that are available on the market. Before we get too excited, though, usually we'd see about 150, 170, maybe 180 properties available on the market. So even though we are seeing an uptick compared to the year before, we have to keep in mind that 32 for this time of year was the absolute historical lowest that we've seen in recent history. So that is a big deal, but we are seeing an increase in the number of properties that are coming onto the market here in Eagle River. So great news, and hopefully that continues, because it's not great to have so little inventory available, because people do want to move here, and if there's not a whole lot there, then they end up having to go elsewhere. Now, the next thing we see is that the number of properties that have actually sold went from about 36 this time last year to 33 this year, just for the month of May. Now, keep in mind, these numbers kind of fluctuate a little bit month to month compared to the year before. I kind of suspect that this year we're actually going to see a lot more properties selling for the month of June and July, August, when those come out. And that's going to be the meat of the bell curve for when most properties are actually going to be selling, because we have more options available now than we did the year before. We'll see how that pans out, but yes, for right now, we're seeing a very slight decrease for the number of properties that sold for the month of May compared to the year before. All right, now for the thing that I know everyone is actually showing up to this market update to see, and that is the average sold price. So the average sold price year to date went from about $496,000 to about $497,000 this year. So we're seeing like $1,000 increase for the year-to-date average sold price. There's a lot of volatility that you can have with the market once you do have such a small sample size to be drawing from. I have anecdotally seen like a lot of properties go onto the market and sell more than what they did a couple of years ago. So I'm not exactly convinced that this is an accurate reflection for the demand for properties here in this area and what the increase is for the year over year. I suspect we're going to see a big bump in the numbers again once we start getting the data, the completed data for the months of June, July, and August. But for right now, looks like we're holding pretty steady from where we were the year before. And looking historically, back in 2019, the average sold price was right about $380,000 this time of year, and now we're just south of $500,000. So you see by how much the appreciation in Eagle River has really taken hold in the past couple of years. All right, well, go and switching gears real quick. We're going to talk about what's going on in the condo market. Now, in the condo market, this is not a particularly big part of the overall makeup for the real estate market here in Eagle River. I suspect it's going to become a fairly big size of it, or fairly big part of it in the coming decades, so we are going to talk about it, but just know it's not a particularly big part of it right at the moment. So at this time, we see about 5 condos available on the market, and this time last year, there were 5. Next, what we see is that the number of condos that actually sold for the month of May last year was 7, and this year, it's 4. Last but not least, we see that the average sold price went from about $296,000 this time last year to about $333,000 this year. So that means that probably the condos we're looking at, they were probably a little bit larger, or they were newer from wherever it is that this small pool was being sold. I don't necessarily think the condos have shot up $40,000 year over year. But yes, I would expect if you owned a condo this year and last year, if you sold it this year, you would make more from it. That's my expectation. And I don't think it's gone up by 40,000, but I think it's definitely gone up. All right, let's go and take a break real quick here. For those of you who have been watching for a little bit, you do know that I host a podcast called the Alaskan Journey Podcast, where I feature people who have recently moved up to Alaska and really share their stories in a way that is going to give you a lot of tips and tricks for you if you're considering moving up here as well. If you're just here for a good story, then this is a great place for you to be as well. The link for that podcast is going to be in the description section down below, so do make sure you go check that out. And we'll see you there, and let's go and finish up today's market update. Last but not least, we see that for the multifamily properties, that this time last year there was 0, and now there are 2. So if you're wanting to get into the multifamily scene here in Eagle River, here's your chance. Now, keep in mind, usually about this time of year, we'd see closer to about 11 or so properties, so it's an improvement. Still not a whole lot, but the multifamily properties in Eagle River are very desirable just because it's a lower cap rate, which for just layman's terms, all that means is you're not going to be making as much money off of it compared to the amount of money that you invested into it, but it also means usually you're going to have way less of a headache with dealing with tenants and a lot of issues that come up with it. So that's one of the reasons that multifamily properties in Eagle River are so desirable. Now, looking at the sold units, a sold number of multifamily properties in Eagle River, this time last year there were 2, and this year there are 5. So we are seeing a bit of an increase there, which does kind of indicate, again, just multifamily properties in Eagle River are desirable. Not a whole lot of them, but when they come up, they usually do sell. All right, last but not least, the average sold price for what it's worth went from about $428,000 this time last year to about $663,000 this year, which, if you're tracking, that means there's about a 54% increase for the average sold price. Now, I'm not getting too excited about this, as you can tell, and the reason for that is multifamily includes everything from the duplex up to the big commercial property, and so there you get a lot of flexibility in that range there. So that's the whole reason that we're really seeing that big swing there, I suspect. So, yeah, just because you own a property this year compared this year and you bought it last year doesn't necessarily mean that your values went up by 54%. But, that's just what we're seeing right now, probably based off of a very small sample size, if I had to guess. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk summary real quick here. For those of you who've been watching for a little bit here, it's really no big surprise that we're seeing a shortage of inventory, and that really does dictate a lot of things. So if you are a seller, it means the market is still pretty favorable, not as crazy as it was a couple of years ago. So we're not quite there, but if a property is properly staged and it looks good, smells good, we've done everything we can on the marketing, make sure that everything is on point, then we can expect for it to get on the market and get off the market pretty quickly, and usually for over asking price. If you're a buyer, the numbers right now indicate that you're probably not going to be competing with as many people, which is good because it's really that competition that drives the price up for you. And yes, interest rates are going up. And let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen if interest rates suddenly do come down like most people are hoping? Well, what happens then is the prices just absolutely shoot through the roof. And it's very unlikely that we're going to see an increase of inventory if interest rates do come down. Now, if they come down enough to make a lot of sellers decide that they're going to go sell their homes that have 2.5%, 3%, 4% interest rates, then we might see something there, but it's very unlikely. Interest rates are going to drop low enough to entice those people. 3% interest. Why would I go get like an 8% interest rate loan right now and get a property that's half of what I have right now? I'm just going to keep what I have. And that's really what's creating the shortage right now. So it's not likely this is going to change anytime soon. And the best thing I can say is probably just get something if it makes sense for you in your life. Do not be the person where you're trying to completely dictate your entire life off of trying to outsmart the system. Just live your life and we'll deal with whatever the hurdles are that we have to get over as you're getting under contract with the property. And if the interest rate is high, we'll just refinance once we go further along. But yeah, this has been your market update talking about what's going on in Eagle River. I sure hope it's been useful for you. If it has, again, make sure you get this video, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.